attention. Thank you. You may be seated. I would have wished to welcome everybody here, but that I do not have the capacity to do so. I'll then invite the Executive Mayor of the City of Johannesburg, Councillor Gauteng, to do the welcoming remarks. Over to you.
His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa, Program Director, Minister Chabeni, Deputy Ministers, Premier of Gauteng, Provincial Cabinet, Madam Speaker of the City of Johannesburg, Chief Whip of Council of Johannesburg, administrative heads across the city, province and national, stakeholders and guests. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Mr. President, please can I address you once again in my lifetime, and please allow me to address you as one of the 5.8 million people born and residing in the city of Johannesburg. The law in this context refers to me as the first citizen of Johannesburg, which could make you number 2. Mr. President, in your address this morning, you reminisced about a time when you once walked down Elof Street, holding somebody's hand. You also said in Addis Ababa, lovers walk freely, and you wish the same for Johannesburg. In a nutshell, Johannesburg must be the city of love. Not only will Johannesburg be the city of love, it will be the first city to host the G20. The G20 declaration will be signed in Johannesburg. As you sign, Mr. President, we will be right behind by your side. Mr. President, for many Joburgers, Joburg is our first love. We have said this before, and we will say it again. Johannesburg is our first love. It is okay, Mr. President. Please bring our First Lady and let us walk in the streets of Johannesburg. Not only will you be able to hold her hand like you always do, but this time you can have a picnic in the middle of the city of Johannesburg and enjoy the Joburg skyline. Program Director, Minister Chabeni, today marks an important day in the history of Johannesburg. We wrote to the President, and indeed we received positive response, which is showing its beautiful face today. This response enabled us to practically live the spirit of Section 1541 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, which states, I quote, "The national government and provincial governments, by legislation and other means, must support and strengthen the capacity of municipalities to manage their own affairs, to exercise their powers, and to perform their functions," close quote. The support is highly welcomed. It will help us to receive additional technical resources and partnerships that will develop the city of Johannesburg. Many residents may wonder what it means to receive this presidential intervention support. It is not an intervention that places Johannesburg under administration, nor it is an intervention that removes the mayor and the entire mayoral committee. For us, this intervention is about putting in place additional technical and political support that will, one, strengthen collaboration between the SAPS, JMPD, Home Affairs, and other law enforcement agencies to combat crime and urban disorder. So why are we doing this? We're doing this to keep our residents safe. Assist us collectively to accelerate national infrastructure funding, maintenance strategies to ensure project acceleration. And why are we doing this? We're doing this to improve service delivery whilst creating jobs. Ensure collaboration with national and provincial governments to improve revenue collection and address non-payment challenges. Why are we doing this? We're doing this to support our non-paying areas. Ensure policy alignment and securing sustainable funding for service delivery. Why are we doing this? We're doing this to take Johannesburg to its former glory and to build an improved developmental path for the city of Johannesburg. Mr. President and Program Director, the Premier of Gauteng, yesterday and today have both been good days for us. These sessions are helping us to hear you better so that we can address our concerns, your concerns. They are giving us an opportunity to further engage with our residents. For example, it is not the first time we're engaging with stakeholders lined up for today's program. On the 14th of November 2023, the Johannesburg Crisis Alliance members, or supported by members of academia, wrote to you citing the following: services to residents, financial decline, and coalition chaos. These three challenges were addressed and debated through dialogues hosted by the Johannesburg Crisis Alliance. The city noted their actions from their summit in January 2025, which enabled them as an organization to express their views and concerns. One of the action items agreed upon at the summit was to work with clinics, taxis, in order to protest against water leaks in their buildings. We have not seen the protest as yet. However, we are working with taxi associations in the city, and one of our programs is to clean the city and ensure public safety around taxi transport nodes and public transport nodes throughout the city. We also welcome the support and partnership we received from Josie My Josie and the Johannesburg Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Not only are these partnerships helping us to clean the city, but they are also helping us to beautify the city of Johannesburg. Beautification will help us and can reimagine the city differently so that we can achieve our desired outcomes as articulated in our growth and development strategy, Vision Joburg 2040. To address some of the concerns by the South African Municipal Workers Union, currently we have allocated 700 million in our budget. In the previous year, we allocated 462 million. This is done to address issues relating to the politically facilitated agreement of 2016. We agreed more needs to be done, and we are going to work with labor to build a productive workforce and attend to their concerns in wages and in conditions of employment. We're also working with Operation Dudula. Our relationship was complex in the beginning. However, we have come together to solve our challenges. When we started our integrated service delivery war room, Operation Dudula was amongst the first organizations to join us on the ground to clean up the inner city of Johannesburg. As we speak, we still see them on the ground. The strategic purpose to protect our township economy resonates with us. It is also important to indicate, Mr. President, that we have also brought Cyril on board as part of the engagements in the inner city. Mr. President, all these efforts demonstrate demonstrate that our stakeholders are taking ownership of their development. This must be celebrated. Our stakeholders, to you, this meeting is very important. Our task is to listen. As you raise concerns, please can you propose solutions that will help us to grow Johannesburg together. It is not only through partnership and working together we will improve the quality of life of many residents. Program Director, in the City of Johannesburg, we undertake independent customer satisfaction surveys. The surveys help us to understand our customers better. This level of research enables us to be evidence-based. The outcomes of the survey informs us about the quality of life and satisfaction levels of the date. The latest figures of 2023-2024, our satisfaction levels is at 61%. However, more needs to be done. This performance is better than our election results. In conclusion, with this presidential intervention, support from our President, His Excellency, President Cyril Ramaphosa, we will not rest until we get it right. In Africa, we say, I quote, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Kenako, Mr. President, the G20, B20, and U20, C20, W20, and Y20 is here. Let us get ready and experience Joburg Maboning. Joburg is indeed the economic hub of Africa, and it is the perfect place to fall in love. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's put our hands and thank the Executive Mayor. Thank you, Executive Mayor. At this point, we'll call the Honorable Minister of Culture, Honorable Kalisa, to give us the purpose of the meeting. Over to you, Honorable Minister. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable MEC, our Director, and the Honorable Minister, the Honorable President, Cabinet Ministers present, the Premier of Gauteng, the Mayor of the City of Johannesburg, all MECs present, members of the Mayoral Committee, the esteemed stakeholders and fellow citizens. It is with great honor that I stand before you today to outline the purpose of this crucial stakeholder engagement session. The President, accompanied by the Cabinet, arrived yesterday to this chamber to engage the Provincial Executive Council. Again this morning, the President engaged with the Executive Mayor of the City of Johannesburg together with the Mayoral Committee. This afternoon, the President is engaging the key stakeholders in the City of Johannesburg. These engagements are done with a common goal: to engage, listen, and provide support on the state of governance in the province of Gauteng and in the City of Johannesburg. Johannesburg is a heartbeat of our nation. It is a place of dreams and opportunities, a hub of commerce and culture, and a space where millions seek a better life. It has a rich history of resilience, but unfortunately, it is engulfed by numerous challenges that need urgent solutions. This session, therefore, is not just a formality, but a platform for open dialogue and constructive engagement. We recognize that the effective governance cannot be achieved in isolation. It requires the active participation and the input of all stakeholders, including the government, civil society, labor unions, business leaders, religious organizations, and academia. The City of Johannesburg, as one of the largest and most vibrant metropolitan areas, plays a pivotal role in the socio-economic landscape of our nation. Its governance, therefore, is of paramount importance, not only to its residents, but to the entire country. The challenges and opportunities laying before the City of Johannesburg require a concerted effort from all sectors of society. In this spirit of collaboration, His Excellency, the President, convened this engagement for each of the stakeholders to bring a unique perspective and valuable insights that are essential to rebuild the City of Johannesburg to its former glory. This is an opportunity for our stakeholders to express their views in assessing the performance of the City of Johannesburg, identifying gaps, but above all, to identify opportunities and provide suggestions for solutions. This is an opportunity of fostering transparency and accountability, which are cornerstones of good governance. As we all know, transparency and accountability are the cornerstones of good governance. This platform, therefore, is an invitation to stakeholders to hold us accountable and to provide constructive criticism that will help us to improve our governance practices. The Cabinet is aware that the complex challenges facing the City of Johannesburg cannot be solved by the government alone. We need the collective wisdom and expertise of all stakeholders to develop innovative and sustainable solutions. This session is a platform for sharing best practices and forging partnership that will drive positive change. We know that trust is a foundation of any successful partnership. By engaging with stakeholders in an open and respectful manner, we aim to build trust and strengthen our relationship. This will create a conducive environment for collaboration and ensure that all voices are heard and valued. As I conclude, Honorable President, we are privileged to have a diverse group of stakeholders participating in this session. Each of you, as stakeholders, represents a vital sector of our community, and your contributions are of great importance. We look forward to a progressive engagement. This stakeholder engagement session is a critical step towards achieving our vision of a well-governed, inclusive, and prosperous City of Johannesburg. It is an opportunity for us to listen, to learn, and collaborate. Let us therefore seize this moment to work together to build a city that we can all be proud of and to create a legacy of good governance for the future of our generation Thank you. That is the purpose of this engagement.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. At this point, without much ado, allow me to call Honorable Premier Panyaza Lesupi, the Premier of our province, to address us. Let's put our hands together to welcome Honorable Premier. Thank you.
Thank you so much, program directors. Truly appreciate it. Honorable President Cyril Ramaphosa, organs and representative of civil society and community formations, Minister of Culture, Honorable Minister Hlabisa, Ministers and Deputy Ministers, Executive Mayor, Councillor Dada Murero, MECs and MMCs present, DGs and HODs, members of the media, and members representing community formations. We come here, Honorable President, to seek counsel and guidance from those who have chosen to establish institutions to serve and support our communities. We come here, Honorable President, as all levels of government, national government, provincial government, and local government, to listen and be guided by our community formations. On behalf of the government of Gauteng, we recommit ourselves to be on the side of the people of Johannesburg. We recommit ourselves to assist and work with the Johannesburg Metro Municipality and all its agencies. President, allow me to single out this formation called Josie My Josie. They don't complain, they do. We frustrate them at times, but they do not throw their toys, they remain. We delay, but they remain. This is the spirit that propels us to come here today and interact with our community structures. In the last 2 days, Honorable President, with your entire cabinet, you painstakingly went through our reports on how best to grow Gauteng together and by extension, grow Johannesburg. We want to appreciate you, President, and your team. We appreciate your guidance, we appreciate your counsel, but most importantly, we appreciate the resolutions that we have reached and the resolutions that need our immediate attention. But it will be wrong from my side, President, not to express my happiness and excitement at the resolution that we have taken to appoint a presidential Johannesburg working group to assist all of us here in Johannesburg to turn around Johannesburg. You can hear from the executive mayor's excitement and our excitement. We wanted a plan, and now we have a plan. The only responsibility is for us to go out there and implement this plan. But this plan will not be full or fulfilled without business formations, religious formations, NGOs, foundations named after our leaders, and community structures so that they can deposit their ideas as well. I'm told, President, that there is this old saying that states, if you carry the egg basket, do not dance. End of quote. We don't want to dance to the problems. We want to listen to our communities. Honorable President, we heard to our say for 2 days. It's time now that we take our seats and allow our community leaders space and time to express their views. We will not only listen, we'll respect their views with an intention of collectively building a better Gauteng and a better Johannesburg. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Honorable Premier. Thanks a lot. At this point, we will be taking the civil society stakeholders' input. And we have two, but we will start with the Johannesburg Crisis Alliance, represented by Mr. Nishan Bolton. And the time allocated is 10 minutes and will be followed by the representative of Plan.
World. This kind of collapse of a city would have been addressed within months. It has gone on. Farrell Effigy writes extensively that this city has been captured through its boards. Joburg is unique in that if you're a councillor in Joburg today, you have no power over any of these entities. Go and look who makes up the boards. Go and look at their party political affiliation and the level of skills and competence to do what these boards require. In most cases, they wouldn't be appointed to any institution close to this. So we have said that this city must be saved from poor governance. Thankfully, the period of mayors being rotated is hopefully over. I must say that the quality of those that have preceded the current mayor was shocking. I cannot imagine any of them getting up at these G20 forums talking and representing the city. The mayor here has spoken about his levels of engagement, and we appreciate that. But more still needs to be done. We, however, have a mayoral committee. if we are to believe press statements, they almost fight in those mayoral committee meetings. They almost come to blows. What we also have is a mayoral committee that almost functions as party fiefdoms over portfolios. There are huge numbers of unfilled senior management posts. In this city, and perhaps in government as a whole, accountability is but a slogan. As a resident, you have no level of accountability over anybody in this city. Water can flow, electricity can go out. Nobody has ever been held accountable for it. Nobody loses their jobs when they don't do their job in this city. So there's no way that we can talk about it. Doesn't. Access to information is a blockage and a hindrance in this city. Try applying for anything in this city. You will wait for years to get a reply. Do you know, to come to a council meeting here, you have to be invited by a councillor. As a citizen of this city, you cannot come into a council meeting or a Section 79 meeting without being invited. This city will never publish its council agenda well in advance. Other cities do that. So you know what exactly they're discussing and debating as a resident. So you can't access the council, you can't access its documents in advance. It makes a mockery of participation. What are we calling for? Very quickly, we didn't know about the announcement that was made earlier. We welcome it. However, the details of that needs to be understood, so that I suppose many in civil society would ask, how do they participate? What are the terms and conditions? What we think is urgently required is a financial and organizational review, is to eliminate waste, tighten supply chain management, and to review the big ticket items, amongst which is this building next door. Why that building has been allowed to be in the state that it is anybody's guess. But wanting to spend up to 3 billion rand to fix that is questionable. So you allow it to be degraded, then you want to spend billions, but that billions will escalate when the final project is done. And some people say, well, it's because 2026 elections is around, and somebody has to fund those elections. The next budget, we think, must prioritize key issues of water and electricity, but must also prioritize investment in infrastructure. Critical for us is the implementation of the Usindiso recommendations. I think that's the first test, is going to be for whatever structure comes in place. If you can't deal with those recommendations, then whatever structure comes in here is not worth its salt. The appointment of a city manager and the COO must be people with competence, not party loyalties. And we also think there must be a review of all senior managers in COJ and the entities, whether they can do what they are employed to do. Public participation needs to be reviewed. I've referred to some of this. We think that these boards must be scrapped. And if they can't be scrapped, change the composition. The city urgently needs a service delivery charter so that as a resident, you know what you are paying for, what to expect, and what to do when you don't get what you have paid for, and who to hold accountable. Without that, accountability becomes meaningless in this city. As the JCA, we will partner with you, we will hold you accountable, but we are not going to do one at the expense of the other. The high impact service delivery of the mayor has been commendable. The appeal is to expand it to all 135 wards. It has been a pleasure driving at night for the first time in years, having street lights on the freeway. But that's not in Orange Farm. It's not in other parts of the city. So let's not prioritize the G20 or make G20 activities in every 135 wards. As the JCA, we will launch a Save Joburg campaign through a Civic Saturdays initiative, and we hope that the city will partner with us. Lastly, we think that this city needs a new vision. Mr. President, you There have been discussions about a national dialogue. We think there needs to be a city dialogue that talks about a new vision for this city 2026 to 31. And in the process of that visioning, we can talk about changes to governance, participation, planning, sustainability. Those issues can be deliberated at that platform. This is an opportunity, as many have said, to reset this city with proper participation of its residents and organized stakeholders. As I conclude, Mr. President, is to remind you 35 years ago, you and I and others were in the other chamber there, negotiating in the Witwatersrand negotiating chamber, where you led the non-statutory side. Then the call was for one city, one tax base. Today it has been dumbed down to talk about one city without potholes, functioning traffic lights, and so forth. We should have been further than we are now. But let's get there working together. Thank you. Sorry, Mr. President, here is a portfolio of all of the submissions from our summits, from other organizations, and from an online submission in the last 24 hours by over 400 residents in this city on what they think needs to be done in Joburg. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's give him a round of applause to acknowledge the input by Mr. Gauteng. Thank you. At this point, we will call the representative of Plan Act, as I did announce. Okay. You can proceed. Let's give a round of applause. Okay, you can proceed.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Mr. President. It's a real honor to be here. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity and the space to make this presentation on the occasion of the National Executive Engagement with key stakeholders. All protocols observed. I know time is short. Mr. President, I'm sure you are familiar with Plan Act. We have a long history in the city, and we have deep and strong relations, particularly working with informal settlement communities. So we really do work with the most vulnerable people in our city and across many other cities and provinces. So we advocate for stronger democracy at local government level and for improving service delivery and upgrading neighborhoods. We also put a particular emphasis on accountability and transparency in local government through effective community participation in all local government initiatives for the marginalized and vulnerable. And we do recognize that municipalities have an incredibly heavy burden, and they are a vital part of our democratic infrastructure and systems of government. So just turning to infrastructure, Mr. President, we put a particular emphasis on this aspect because certainly it is where we really do see the city failing. And we call on the work of the city to build a society where people's rights and dignity are protected and where access to housing, water, sanitation, and electrification is provided in an equitable and just, fair manner. People must be put at the center of our development programs, and citizens' rights must be protected. So the current infrastructure crisis is an affront to the dignity of people in the city. And furthermore, it really does undermine economic growth and development, which constrains our efforts to address poverty alleviation. So we note with the concerns around the lack of clarity on repairs and maintenance budgets, which is certainly an aspect that has come to our attention. Very little clarity on these budgets, particularly for inner city buildings and across our informal settlement communities, where there's also a lack of budgets. Of course, the water waste works have also seen their budgets eroded. On a more optimistic and positive note, Mr. President, you would be aware of the Asivikelane program. And in fact, this is an area that is working extremely well, and we are seeing great benefits through working with city officials. And the particular issue that was raised by our communities was the issue of sanitation. And what we are seeing is by bringing together platforms of stakeholders to build a common understanding and find solutions to address particularly this issue on sanitation has really borne fruit. So I would also just like to appeal to stronger intergovernmental relations as we tackle these very complex challenges like, for instance, sanitation. And in this instance, we're seeing cooperation by human settlements, Joburg Water, Pick It Up, and environmental and infrastructure services. I also just want to appeal to the city to recognize the important role that professionals with technical capacity and civil society and NGOs play in addressing many of the challenges that confront us. And in fact, what we are seeing is the incredible value of ICT. And we are mobilizing apps that can actually map out all these areas where these VIP pit latrines are located and their status, real time, virtually, and with imagery. So I think just a quick point to make, and before I quickly move on, is this also provides, the mapping that we're doing provides the city with a clearer indication of how many people, how many households, and then by extrapolation, how many people are actually living in a particular settlement, which then enables budgets and services to be more focused. So I think that's a valid point. And so I think stakeholder models and partnership agreements are vital, and the importance of building partnerships with civil society can't be underscored. The CEF, Mr. President, we recognize the Social Employment Fund, which is working extremely well. And I think possibly more thought needs to be given to this initiative, perhaps by the city, to see how it can be strengthened, mainstreamed, and further supported. This is a program that really looks at youth unemployment, which is sitting at staggering levels, according to Stats SA, up to 45.5%. So this initiative really enables young people to gain experiential learning, apprenticeships, and other forms of exposure to the workplace. We have them mobilized across a whole number of thematic areas, and they're making seriously impressive strides in upgrading a range of settlements. So just to say that this is an initiative that is worthy of more attention, possibly, and further funding. And then just finally, to end, I just wanted to really appeal to a focus by the city on governance and leadership, because this is really an area which needs a much stronger focus. And we do need to be focused on improving the lives of South Africans. So Section 41, subsection 1 of the Constitution says all spheres of government and all organs of state must provide effective, transparent, accountable and coherent government for the Republic as a whole. Effective leadership and a vision, and just to underscore what the previous speaker mentioned, I think this is an aspect that really needs greater clarity. Is this idea of creating a coherent vision that we can all coalesce around. But this vision will also require strong leadership to bring this to life and to make it effective. We've heard about the plan from the esteemed mayor, and I certainly want to follow this up and hear more about this. So strong, coherent governance really is required, and effective service delivery, which is not being realized and seen, certainly by our communities. Serious corruption is something that we are deeply concerned about at a time when finances are constrained, and this certainly then sends the wrong signals and further constrains the ability to deliver. And so we also want to just finally just to say about the impacts and the IDPs, the integrated development plans, that are not operating optimally. And these are also very important avenues. So perhaps we can also just focus on that. And then, Mr. President, we will certainly be following up with great eagerness to see the outcomes of today's proceedings. I thank you very much for your time and attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. So that concludes the representatives of civil society stakeholders. So we're going to labor stakeholders to make their input. So we'll start with the representative of the South African Municipal Workers Union. And the name we have is Mr. Nelson Mhoto. Let's put our hands together to welcome the leadership of SAMU. Let's start. We can join.
Amandla, viva Makabane, viva. Sanibonani nonke. My name is Esther Mtatyana, SAMU Regional Chairperson at Johannesburg. It will seem as if I came not prepared. The reason, the invitation didn't reach me. My employer wanted to invite me, but the political office declined my invitation, indirectly so. I had to fight. You know, some with 28,000 members, we are not taken serious. We are the stakeholder at the City of Johannesburg, but I had to fight to enter here. We are not happy for that. But let me do what I came to do here. Kamala Makhosikazi. Mr. President, as the employees of the City of Johannesburg, 46,000 of them, because we are there as labor, I am including Imadu and SAMU members. We are in the city that is in grade 10, but we are earning a salary of grade 8. Mr. President, we had to fight for us to be recognized as a grade 10 employees. All along, from 2016, the only people who were in grade 10, it was from city manager's office upwards. But the workforce from 2016 remained in grade 8. We fought last year, 1st of July 2024. It was pronounced, the agreement was signed, that from the 1st of July 2024, we are in grade 10. But to date, we are working in the city that is grade 10, but we are earning a salary of slavery of grade 8. We are requesting the intervention, Mr. President. At the City of Johannesburg, we are also experiencing a problem. If we raise a corruption, Mr. President, we are attacked. Inkabi are sent to us to kill us. I'm sure for almost 4 times, they are trying, comrades, to kill me. All this thing, Mr. President, it started on the 12th of December, 2024, when we closed the freeway at M1. We were shot at. One of the comrades lost the eyesight. It was the first time for us. I've been a shop steward from 1997. During the time of Bab Masondo, while he was the mayor for 2 terms, I was the shop steward. We have never seen until this time that we were shot at. Some of them, they were injured. It did not end there. From the 13th, the attack started to us because we raised the corruption. If you raise the corruption in the city of Johannesburg, there's nothing else than for you to be killed. The corruption that we raised, or the people that the names we mentioned as Samu, not as Esther Mtatjana, it was the name of Helen Potes and the name of the executive mayor, Mr. Tatamrelo. For mentioning those names, our lives changed. As the regional chairperson, my life changed, comrade. On the 13th, comrade, of December, they tampered with my car, first car. But I found it before I entered to the freeway. The second one, on the 16th of December, they tampered with the one parked in the place where there is cameras at 66 Jorison Place. To that one, it was worse. They wanted me to burn inside the car. There was the plastic covered in the gearbox. There was the plastic covered all over, comrade, to make sure that when the oil, and the oil was leaking, when the oil is hot, the iron will be hot, the plastics will melt, then the car will catch fire. All those things started from the 12th of December. There's no other time. I've been in the city, I'm close to 30 years. I've been in a shop steward from 1997. We have never taken like this. Comrade, on the 21st of March, 21st of January 2025, there's a man with bulletproofs and rifles came in my house for wanting to kill me. Comrade, yesterday I was in the REC while I was still sharing the meeting there. I received a call that the police are in my house. They want to lock me up because on Tuesday, on the 4th, I was involved in a theft at Mondia. By 9:30 in the evening, I sleep at 7:30. I'm close to 60 years by age. But there was nothing else. It was for me not to attend here because to enter here, I have to fight. Mr. President, we have a problem of a PFA, politically facilitated agreement. The only thing that the city has paid, it is only the notches. This year is the 3rd year. We had the facilitator. The facilitator, we contacted him several times. Until last week, he informed us that the employer does not come, does not want to come in the table. Our PFA has stuck. Today is the 3rd month. What can we do? For us, is to apply for a strike. There's nothing else we can do. And we know that since then, the facilitator has not been paid. And again, Mr. President, there's one thing that we learned. We must name and shame to protect the organization. I remember we used to say, if it's the ANC in the government or is the DA, we'll say the ANC is doing that. It is not the ANC, it's a person. We have to name the name of a person and leave the organization aside. Because there's no organization that can say, some can never say to me, Esther, go and do a corruption. It's me who are doing that. As we have a problem also here at Johannesburg, the duplication of jobs. You find out we have the permanently employed employees, but you find out there is a service provider aside. And also, Mr. President, we are worried about our salaries. We met the employer on the 12th of February, wanted to know about our salaries because it came to us. The rumors came that from last year, we have been paid by a USDG monies. We wanted to know, and the employer to confirm, if they are no longer having money for our salaries. The employer said we must come with a proof. It was on the 12th of February. On the 14th of February, the National Treasurer wrote to them to ask what are they doing about the money of a USDG. Because that money is for infrastructure, nothing else. It's still our question. As some we will write to the National Treasurer, we want to know what are they doing about those funds. We want our monies, when our budget is from June 2025, July 2025 to June 2026 for salaries. We are not expecting those monies to be touched. Then we want to know what is happening to our monies. Let me come to the matter of JPC, Johannesburg Company Properties. Firstly, the lady now who is acting COO, her employment with the City of Johannesburg ended on the 3rd of September 2024. On the 11th of October, the board chair signed a contract of 6 months for her. When the board chair signed this contract, it was supposed to go to the then city manager. After the then city manager, it was supposed to come in this council to be noted. All that process, it didn't happen because she's favored by the executive mayor. We are not here for favoritism. The very same lady that we are talking about, as we are saying as SAMU, we do not want her as a COO, as we are saying that her acting was wrong. All her corruption was not attended to of SIU campaign report. At JPC, besides the corruption, she was victimizing workers. There were workers who were dismissed. There are workers who are depressed. Is she coming to do the same thing to all of us? Because immediately once you are a COO, it means all the City of Johannesburg, all the employees of these entities and departments belong to you. We cannot, unless she is in that office to lead the executive mayor only, not us. We cannot be led by Helen Potters. No, I'm not tested. We cannot be led by Helen Potters with the history that he has. What we will see, she will collapse the City of Johannesburg. We will be unemployed. As right now we are experiencing the financial crisis. We are in the level that we never been there. But now,
yes, I've given you 2 additional minutes. Just conclude.
Oh, my 10 minutes is finished?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
That's the part, Chair.
Okay, I'm wrapping up now. Let me check what I forgot. Okay, the last one, and the serious one. We are worried as the whole City of Johannesburg is run by the third-party contractors or the service providers. These service providers are not paid. Let me make an example about the entity that I am in Pick It Up. If the landfill sites are closed, the yellow plant is not moving because they are not paid, which means the first load of the trucks will not be offloaded. What will happen to the residents of the City of Johannesburg? Ngalokho isicelo sami kumongameli. Sicela mongameli ubeke thina phambili ama residents ase City of Johannesburg. Before we come employees, we are the residents of the City of Johannesburg. And siyafuna ukusebenzela iCity of Johannesburg, but makube khona ubulungiswa amandla.
Thank you very much. Let's thank the original chair of SAMU commented. At this point, let's, without any much ado, call the representative of IMATU. I have here, okay, the name they gave us is Mr. Kitsonepu, but let's allow him to address us. You can proceed.
Are you switching the program around?
We were on the labor stakeholders, so we are done with SAMU. Now we're going to the independent municipal. And then we go into the business stakeholders. And at this point, let's welcome the representative of Josie My Josie, Ms. Pia Swanepoel. Over to you. Let's welcome her to the podium.
Honorable President Cyril Ramaphosa, Premier Lessufi, Executive Mayor Morero, all the ministers, MMCs, MECs, distinguished guests, all protocol observed. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm honored to stand here before you guys as the CEO of Josie My Josie, an organization deeply committed towards the revitalization of Johannesburg in collaboration with others. Some information about Josie My Josie, Mr. President. We are not just another marketing campaign. We are a movement for the people, by the people, rooted in actions, big and small, towards creating a city that we can all proudly call Josie My Josie. Our aim is to inspire the people of Johannesburg, Mzansi and people around the world to bring back hope and to bring dignity back and to instill pride back into our city. And to do this, we needed to create a movement, not a project where somebody does something, we cut a ribbon, and 3 months later it's not there again. We need to create a movement for everybody to join the movement for the right reasons, as active citizens, as passionate people about the state of our city, our province, and our country, to step up and do something to save the city and our country. Our strategy has always been to focus on 6 work streams. There's 6 things that we focus on. First and foremost, it is the safety and security, environment, issues that we face in the city. It is, from a social perspective, looking at the destitute and the homeless people. We're looking at bringing communities together through sports, arts, culture, tourism. We're focusing on education. We're focusing on the G20 a lot about traffic revitalization. And everything that we do, all the processes and projects that we implement and pushing as part of Josie My Josie initiatives, is to look at bringing investment back into the city of Joburg, to establish businesses and to make sure that there's job creation for the people of Johannesburg. We are a coalition of the willing. Josie My Josie was established because of a collaboration between Anglo-American, Standard Bank, Wits University, Nando's, IQ Business, to name but a few. A collaboration that the private sector decided, let's work together with the city, let's collaborate with the city and do our part to be the active citizens and be that missing piece of the puzzle so that we can make our city and our country work again. I think through Business Unity South Africa, Business for South Africa, that has already been established on a national basis. Now we're bringing it down to local so that we can help fix our cities. Currently, we're more than 150 companies who signed up and supports Josie My Josie with skills, with resources, with funding for us to be able to do projects together with the city, together with the province, to make Johannesburg a city that we can all be proud of. We started Josie My Josie long before rumors of the G20 surfaced. So we're not here to put a Band-Aid on problems. We are here to fix it sustainably, make sure that the projects and the solutions that we put in place is resilient and that it outlives us so that it's available for the next generation that needs to stay in Johannesburg. We work very closely with our Josie My Josie chapter that we've established in Soweto. So we're not only focusing on the city of Johannesburg, the inner city, we're focusing on Soweto as well. We've established a youth chapter, working very closely with the students, the SRC of both WITS and UJ, and engaging with schools as well in the inner city as well as Soweto, making sure that everybody has the same opportunities to be the valued future of our country that they deserve to be, that everybody has the same opportunities and exposure that they actually deserve. We have done a couple of successful projects in 2024. I think, Premier, you mentioned I'm like a bad cold. I don't go away. I keep on coming back. It's because we are passionate about our city. It's about passionate seeing our city, Gauteng, and the country work. The projects that we've delivered, and thank you again to the Executive Mayor and the City of Johannesburg for collaborating and cooperating with us. We fixed the Nelson Mandela Bridge that was in a state of disrepair for a long time. So together with the cooperation of the city, we replaced the glass panels that was vandalized. We replaced all of the color lights on the bridge so that the Nelson Mandela Bridge can shine as a beacon of hope for the residents of Johannesburg, but also for the rest of the country, that the lights are going on. We have successfully installed and replaced street lights, current street lights, with solar lights, doing our part for sustainable development, green energy, and also making it possible to reduce the load on the grid so that our city can be lit from a safety and security perspective. Johannesburg in Ellis Park hosted the big game between the Springboks and the All Blacks in August last year, which was a rerun of the World Cup. Ellis Park struggled to sell their tickets. They struggled to get the stadium full of spectators because of the perceived state of our city. That was the first time, I think, in a very, very long time, where the private sector and the public sector took hands to say, we're going to do this together, we're going to change this precinct, we're going to make sure this is a world-class event. The whole precinct around Ellis Park was upgraded, lights were replaced with solar lights, road surfaces were fixed, security was put in place, the gardens were fixed up. We put up a brilliant world-class event, and with 68,000 people eventually attending that game, not one incident of crime, not one. That is the power of collaboration. So, Mr. President, Mr. Premier, Mr. Mayor, that is what I want to put on the table. Let's continue. Let's reduce the red tape. Let's reduce bureaucracy and get the projects on the go. From the private sector side and all of our major sponsors that I've mentioned, all 150 of them are ready to help you guys to get through the next period, not just focusing on the G20, but focusing on the future of our city to get it in the right place. We have got big plans for 2025. Our steering committee and our board is representative of all the different stakeholders today in the room. They've approved the projects that we want to do. It is now up to the city and to Gauteng to work with us or allow us to do some of the projects. We have very strict governance around us as the private sector, you can imagine. All of the partners that we have behind us, there's very strict governance rules that we need to adhere to. There's laws that we need to be adhering to in terms of transparency, etc., who we can work with, who we cannot work with. The same on the side of the city and of the province and obviously the government. There's governance rules everywhere, but let's see where we can meet each other to make sure that we can do this together and change our city, revitalize it, and working with and involve everybody that wants to make a difference. Let's include them. There's a wise saying, and I'm going to conclude with this. There's a saying, and one of our founding members, Robert Brosen from Nando's, he has a saying that goes like, if it's not us, who's going to do this? And if it's not now, then when are we going to do this? So please let us do it together. Let's do it now. Let's do it sustainably. Let's do it right the first time and make sure we leave a legacy for the next generation that we are not the ones that they blame for the state of the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Thank you. At this point, we're proceeding with the business stakeholders, and I'm glad to call the representative of Johannesburg Chamber of Commerce and Industry. According to the program, it's represented by Ms. Karen.
Sorry? No? Oh. It's the Youth Chamber of Commerce and Industry person.
Sorry, apologies.
Youth Chamber of
Can I just ask that where names of representatives are changed, we'll be notified so that we can acknowledge people properly. Apologies. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Denise Rapiti. I am the CEO of the Youth Chamber of Commerce and Industry in South Africa. All protocol observed. Hi, Mr. President. So I'm going to start with who are we as the Youth Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So we focus mostly on areas where young people can sort of start doing and start contributing to global and local economic development, including just the future of businesses, climate change, sustainability, inclusive economic growth, economic growth, and the future of work. Our main purpose is that the Youth Chamber of Commerce and Industry falls under the South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which is an umbrella body for all chambers of commerce and industry. I think the biggest part that I want to bring through is that youth and citizens of South Africa and Johannesburg are tired of talking. We had to be more initiative on our side and actually just take the bull by the horns. I think we spent 6 months trying to find a building in the CBD of Johannesburg. It took a long time to do it, but eventually we decided as a chamber, we got a lot of young CEOs, a lot of tech startups, some mavericks, some giants, some property investors, most of them also who are young, like the guys from OPH, the Braamnfontein, the guys that own Maboneng, all of them are made up of youth. And these are the youth that are creating jobs. So we noticed that there was only one way for us to bring business back. You're not going to have ABSA coming back, you're not going to have FNB coming back, but you will have young people who are really still ready and still love the city of Johannesburg. Because I think a lot of us have nostalgic feelings about the city, especially being young people in South Africa. So we decided to have one evening where we were occupying a space. We occupied the Rand Club, and we decided to take over the Rand Club and have all of these young executives, and we raised quite a bit of money from there. And from that point, we bought the old Bank of Athens because nothing is cooler than actually buying a bank. And so the bank sits just behind the EFF building in the CBD on Marshall Street. And my mother, who's sitting in the audience, had told me about a place called Funda Center a few years ago. And we created the modern day Funda Center. But our Funda Center is a bit different, right? We welcomed partners like JD Group, Visa, Josie will also be playing a part in it. We welcomed in the Youth Directorate, who currently was kicked out of Metro City, so we said, hey, we have space for you. We welcomed in the opportunity centers, working with economic development, working with various private sector partners like NASPERS Labs. If you guys didn't know, NASPERS Labs they don't have labs. So the only lab that will exist for NASPERS is going to be in the CBD. So this is going to be a high-tech innovation center that's going to open up the doors for young people to not only learn about innovation and technology, but also allow them the chance to actually get jobs, also get them the skills. We're not just talking around the tech industry, we're also talking about manufacturing, we're also talking about various other industries. And this was important because not everyone wants to be an entrepreneur like myself. So with these, the Department of Economic Development, and I will say that we've made quite a big progress within the city through the help of the City of Johannesburg. The City of Johannesburg has some of the most passionate, amazing people, to be honest, from staff to the people on the ground. The mayor himself has opened his doors, and we want to thank him for being the first person to actually say yes to us. Through the work that we've been doing, we also partnered up with Economic Development, who have opened up the doors to their opportunity centers. The opportunity centers will actually work well in terms of bringing in some of the tech that we have from MICT, CETA, some of the training courses, but to also upskill that building. If you guys have heard about a smart city that's currently being built in Lenseria, we're working very closely, learning from the Harris Group on how to actually populate this and make it a bigger thing. But last year, the end of last year, we had the honor of being invited by the Chinese government, and we were hosted by the Chinese, the SG of the Chinese government. Some of the work that we did was we went to a city that looked exactly like the City of Johannesburg. The difference was you just don't get pickpocketed there. The difference was it was much cleaner, but it still had the same amount of congestion that you'd have if you were walking down north. And so I was asking the mayors there, how do they get their city to be so safe? It was through the cameras that they have, the artificial intelligence. If you guys drive past the camera and it blinks, you're probably going to drive slower and you know a camera is there. So they've installed all of that. It was also through just interventions. They have Interpol systems put into their systems. So we're working very closely with the Chinese government around different ways of actually changing it, but also creating spaces in the City of Johannesburg that allow. So once we've trained these young people, where do they go? We found a solution for that too. And we did all of this without a budget. And we utilized our events and everything else in order for us to actually get the money and to raise the funds. And also our connections sometimes came through. So this is just a story and a testament to show you guys that it is really possible for people to start from nothing to something. We then brought in, so with the Chinese government, we partnering with the likes of China Energy, China Construction, and in the CBD, we're currently looking at some of the portfolio of buildings. I hope JPC will give us the chance. So we're looking at some of the old, bad buildings, and we're trying to renovate them to create the ecosystem that the Chinese have sort of finessed. They have created an ecosystem where we train, people need a place to go to. But we needed, before we build these things, we needed to find partners that are already doing the work. For example, Eskom R&D, which looks at research and development, have a data center that requires coders, that requires people because they're using robotics and tools to actually monitor infrastructure damage. But they only have 3 guys in their data center. So that was a great opportunity for us to say, hey, would you guys like some young people? So those are partners that we're working with. We're also working with the guys from Gallo Music Group, which turns 100 next year. So Gallo Record Company is also the oldest but the biggest record label. We'll be launching a small office of the Black Coffee Foundation in our small hub. So these are some of the cool things that we're doing for the city. And I think that by utilizing the IP that already exists in our relationship with our other countries, it's going to be much easier than creating the wheel all by itself. It's also much cheaper. And then we need to create manufacturing plants, and so that's what the buildings are going to do. And that's why it was so important for us to establish an IPO with the Chinese companies to produce and to do different things. And it also falls within the agricultural side. I also wanted to mention that, so I, sir, and ladies and gentlemen, and there are some of my colleagues here, some of us are currently working and have been entrusted with doing the Y20 Summit for National. I know no one has been talking about it, but I might as well bring it up while we sit here. The Y20 Summit, we're wanting to really create something that is impactful for youth. Not just policy changes, not just discussions. Policy changes are implemented, but why? Like, for example, this stakeholder meeting. This is important because you have people on the ground that are actually going to inform that policy, and that's the only way to get it. So we're currently doing the expressions of interest, and if you guys want to play a part in it, Beer, you and your 145 companies, we need the funding. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Let's again a round of applause. Now, at this point, we have reached, we will have to the last stakeholder and the business stakeholders, the South African Properties Owner Association, and the name I have. I hope I'm not getting into trouble, but let me allow you to address us.
Good afternoon. I'm Karen Southerns. I'm the Vice President of the JCCI. You introduced me just before Denise came up. One back. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Mr. President. It is lovely to finally meet you. If nothing else comes out of today, I can say to everybody I know, I met the President. It's a real honor. Thank you so much. Let me put my glasses on, and now I can see absolutely nothing. Once again, good afternoon, Mr. President, ministers, Minister Tau, I see you there. You're a very big favorite of mine, I have to say. Mr. Mayor, thank you so much. Do I see you there? Hi. Okay. I'm Karen, and all the other ministers and MECs and MMCs and MMC Lesotho. Thank you so much for having us here today. I'm Karen Southerns. I represent the Johannesburg Chamber of Commerce and Industry in my capacity as Vice President, and our CEO is here somewhere, but I can't see beyond the photographers in front of me with my glasses, so she is here. It is a very, very great honor to meet the President today, and we would really like to be part of the solution. I would again like to express my gratitude to the Executive Mayor of the City of Joburg for inviting myself and my CEO to this esteemed gathering. We already have in place ongoing meetings with the Executive Mayor and his team, and we continue to extend our support to him in this huge task ahead. I'm actually not sure why I print notes out, because I scribble all over them. The JCCI is a non-political chamber. We have a very long history with the COJ, including with Honourable Minister Parks Tau, when he was mayor. And I must add, he's been a helping hand over the years to our chamber and to the many people we have as members. We are also 130 years old, not me, our chamber, and we are part of ASAC. And we partner with chambers nationally and internationally. Our CEO has a very, very long reach, and she meets with ambassadors, she works with the EU, we have projects with the German government, GIZ, Belgium, the province, and the city. So we're very active in the city. Okay, we also try not, we have approximately 1,000 members, which consist of businesses, banks, developers, professionals, town planners, SMMEs, and many more. We try not to act as a silo, and we partner with stakeholders, including SAPOA, who will speak after me, and who's already been introduced, actually, in my place. And we work together with stakeholders such as BASA, the Banking Association, JPOMA, the Johannesburg Inner City Business Chambers, Joburg CAN, the Town Planners Forums, Developers Forums, including the Waterfall and Midrand developers. And we also work very closely with SALGA. We are panelists at their sessions, and we've hosted 1 or 2 of their sessions. Okay, we have continued meetings and sessions with 2 of the municipal entities, City Power, I'm trying to see if Ms. Mashava is still here, hi, and Joburg Water. And we enjoy many engagements with the development planning, economic planning, and land use management, where our members and our partners interact and share solutions to streamline processes and assist where we can. Both City Power, especially the CEO, and Joburg Water have met with ourselves many times, and we value our working relationship with you guys. So on the not so positive point, some of our pressing concerns, however, which are impeding and impacting negatively on our members and partners who face these challenges daily, are the following. We have a continued debilitating electrical outage problem. Okay, we know this. Needless to say, on the other side of the coin, the more outages we have, the more the private sector providing alternatives. Yes, that's reducing the supply issue, but it is not. On the downside, it reduces revenue income to the city. So that's a downside. Access to reliable water, where water is becoming a reliable commodity. Many of our businesses and residents are sinking boreholes to alleviate this problem. This solution, even though it's a short-term solution, leads to more issues in other areas, for example, depleting the water table and other geological issues. Not to mention that it is our social responsibility to provide water to our residents, including those who have no access to drinking water. We have non-functioning traffic lights and street lights at an ongoing crisis. We have the pothole issues. The only reason I'm bringing it up today is because I actually hit one day ago with one of my brand new tires and had to replace it. Besides me, it's costly. Some of our people don't have that money to replace their vehicles, replace their tires. It's a danger to our members, to our residents, who are either stuck on the side of the road waiting for somebody to come and help them, or even worse, they end up in car accidents. Cleanliness and sanitation within our city. We have workers that work for the businesses that we act for, that are part of our chamber, the areas within the CBD. Well, these people are living in conditions that we cannot even begin to imagine. An issue that came up last week, actually, a problem within the city, not related to you, Mr. President, was that the deeds register in Johannesburg closed because of problems with their labourers, with their staff, which were safety concerns. This is a huge impact again on our businesses and on our property sector. The city have appointed an acting city manager. Please, whoever the permanent position is offered to, we desperately require and need a skilled and transparent person to manage and address the above crisis. We cannot continue, as somebody said just before me, with the coming and the going of city managers and mayors. The ripple effect causes downtime in the business area, in the residential area, in the property development, etc., etc. And we're losing confidence. Please, so, Mr. Mayor, please don't go anywhere right now. Given these challenges, I must inquire how the city plan to address and prioritize the critical issues, and if there's a timeline for implementing solutions. The private sector would like and wants to collaborate with governance to effectively tackle these ongoing problems and improve the city. Some of our suggestions are: could the recent past budget be reviewed to allow for funds to be allocated to the municipal entities to enable them to not only build the very needed infrastructure, but to fix and maintain the failing infrastructure? We need skilled workers to enable the teams to be able to go out and deal with the many, many calls that they are experiencing daily. If policies would allow for the reinvestment of bulk contributions into infrastructure, into infrastructure development where construction is underway. This would encourage new development and bring revenue to the relevant municipal entities, enabling them to build infrastructure, and it would also stimulate job creation. We anticipate thousands of international guests for the G20 summit. To avoid our guests experiencing our daily challenges, we would like to formalize our task team to work with the city and even beyond the G20. It would be beneficial to identify opportunities for cooperation between the city and the private sector to enhance Johannesburg, to make our city great again. We have at hand, we have skills, we have the want-to, we have willing partners, we have our own partners. Everybody is willing to come hands on deck to fix our wonderful city. Sadly, we are seeing our businesses, residents, professionals and developers emigrating to other provinces due to the declining infrastructure. This impacts on job creation, which affects business in our city. We, as the business sector, would like a clear and actionable roadmap from the city detailing opportunities for cooperation and to remove the barriers to enable us to work together. Your guidance, Mr. President, would help us reassure our members and partners that there are steps being taken at the highest level to resolve our current crisis. Business needs to know that the city has a plan to address and prioritize this and what the timeline is, especially as we want to keep the G20 in our wonderful city. In short, how can we, as the private sector, collaborate more with yourselves to effectively tackle the crisis that we are in and improve our city? We would like to put a working group together that would work with the higher-ranking officials and include stakeholders on the plans going forward for the G20 summit and beyond. With your blessing, Mr. President, I believe we could make a big difference. Thank you all, and thank you, Mr. President. It's a great honor to meet you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Karen Hart-Sappens. I think it is the nature of business to then offer proposals, but you've come to the right platform in this engagement because there's already a working group that the President will articulate to you. I need an indication if we've got a representative from the Property Association. Let's hand over to you, Mr. Habu Mushir, from the South African Properties Owners Association. You've got 5 minutes, unfortunately, because the time is okay, thank you.
Honorable President, officials, stakeholders, and our partners, greetings, and thank you once again for this opportunity. I must stress that I'm here on behalf of our CEO, Mr. Neil Gopal, who couldn't make it today, given that he's traveling. So, Mr. President, I just wanted to start with who SAPOA is and what we do. The South African Property Owners Association represents companies that own and manage over 90% of our country's commercial and industrial property sector. These are our members that form a huge rates base for most cities. We have noted with great concern the downward trajectory of Johannesburg. We are pleased, though, that there is some level of decisive action being taking place to ensure that the city is 1, functional, 2, financially stable, 3, to also improve investor confidence. The underperformance of the city poses a significant risk to business, its citizens, and the economy as a whole. Infrastructure, which is in a state of disrepair, affects business and service delivery, as well as the citizens. These obstacles not only drive away, Mr. President, investment within the city, but these also devalue our properties, which then increases the cost of running business in the city. With that being said, we remain committed, firstly. We remain committed to working alongside government and other stakeholders to rebuild Johannesburg, as we'd like to see a Johannesburg that, 1, is safe, 2, well managed, and 3, economically vibrant. I must also thank our mayor, Dada, Honorable Dada Morero. We've had a number of engagements with him, with his team, and also must thank the JCCI for their continuous contribution together with all other stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the President, when he was opening Parliament for the 7th Parliament, he said the 7th administration is going to be data-driven so that we can then be fact-based and our solution are fact-based. And people who are critical in driving data, the analytics, research is the academia. So now is our opportunity to invite from the academia, and we'll start with representatives of the Public Affairs Research Institute, Dr. Sarah Manning Gilbert and Dr. Tracy Leisure. You're going to share the 10 minutes between the two of you.
Good afternoon, residents of Johannesburg, the President of South Africa, Mr. Ramaphosa, and sorry I have my back to you, ministers, the Premier, MECs, to Johannesburg's Mayor and other members of the Council, union representatives and leaders, church leaders, community formations and business. My colleague and I lead research programs at the Public Affairs Research Institute, and we are speaking today on behalf of our Executive Director, Dr. Sitembile Mbete, who cannot be here today. She's in an aeroplane somewhere above the African continent right now. Parry does research on how government functions and how we can make it work more effectively for its people, including here in Johannesburg. The problems of Johannesburg have largely been framed as exemplary of the crisis affecting local government. But the crisis is better framed as a national problem, one requiring the expertise, collaboration and resourcing of multiple role players across spheres of government and across business and wider society. For example, questions of how to recapitalize Johannesburg's infrastructure should not be treated only as a question of local government financing. It should instead be treated as a question of how to build coalitions for the development of our national economy. The G20 offers a platform to focus on Johannesburg as a model for this, to demonstrate a high road for urban development and proper redistribution. This requires the state to create platforms for actors across business, professional associations, academia, labour, civil society to come together. We understand that there is now a national plan to support Johannesburg through the working group, and that this presidential visit partly signals this commitment. In this room today are people who have been successful in bringing attention and urgency to the crisis of Johannesburg, and some who have worked with concerned city officials and projects to turn around wards. But we need more than the actors in this room. We need to expand commitment to the problem of fixing Johannesburg. One of the ways in which the state can demonstrate that it is serious about this project, to draw in more resources, expertise, and build a coalition for a turnaround, is to institute tangible governance reforms. I run a program at Parry on civil service reform, and I can underscore that our research shows the need for independent processes of appointment to key positions in the city. We need to fundamentally change the way we appoint our accounting officer, senior administrators, and board members to show tangible interventions towards a stable, professional public administration. The expedient, short-termist and volatile nature of our coalition politics and its tendency to carve up the city into clientelist fiefdoms is having impacts on city administration and the economy that is fundamentally unsustainable. It carries serious national risk, and it is also literally leading to death. Our research on coalition government that we're currently exploring at the moment, you can draw a direct line from the instability in coalition politics through to contract management, through to the failure in emergency services, through to the death of people in fires in Johannesburg. To get these governance reforms in motion, we cannot rely on the usual approach where national departments develop regulations for municipalities across the country, they are left to implement them, and central institutions check compliance. Accountability through after-the-fact reporting has reached its limits in the face of systemic corruption in South Africa. Nor can we rely on national interventions as usual that do some restructuring of utilities or other but leave the governance environment untouched. So we need a collaborative and we suggest strategic and incremental approach to reform. drawing lessons from some successful Section 139 interventions, from the turnarounds that we have achieved in some of the SOEs, including under your leadership, Mr. President, this model could start its journey in Johannesburg. Build confidence in the model here. We can use the district development model to support this coalition in Johannesburg, but we must go beyond it too, experimenting with new tools for cooperation of actors across spheres of government, across society. And business and those of us with expertise to lend must show a commitment not only to the narrow and immediate demands of enhanced infrastructure for business or for fixing middle-class wards. This commitment must be to proper services and infrastructure for low-income communities in our cities. If we're to show the value of this model, it must put this urgent priority at the centre. Water infrastructure is an essential focal point for this project, and we do not suggest that this project starts all at once. I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Tracy Ledger, who's working on water, electricity and food systems reform, to say more about the question of water infrastructure.
Good afternoon, everyone. Our main research focus and our main concern is the ways in which city policies are in fact undermining the national poverty reduction and inequality reduction strategies. In many ways, the City of Joburg has failed to be a developmental state and is engaged in making the lives of the poor in the city even worse than they are already. One good example of this is the implementation of the free basic services policy. Every year in the national budget, funding is allocated to indigent households for a package of free basic services that is worth 567 Rand a month, which is a significant amount of money to a poor household. If a household doesn't receive those services, they have to pay for it out of their own pockets. And our research and other institutes show quite clearly that the main item that is sacrificed in the payment for these services is food. So when people have to pay for free basic services that they should be getting out of the National Treasury allocation, it directly exacerbates food insecurity and child malnutrition in the city. Last year, the city got funding to provide that package of free basic services to 1.1 million households. It actually provides those services to less than 100,000 households. So there are 1 million households in the city that should be getting 567 Rand a month worth of free basic services. Some of them do still get the free basic water, but none of them get the free basic electricity, which means that they have to pay for those services because the city has knowingly taken that money into general revenue instead of using it to support the poorest and most vulnerable households in the city. The dispersal of the free basic services is a problem in many municipalities, but the City of Johannesburg has the dubious distinction of being the one that is the worst offender and taking 567 million Rand a month out of the pockets of the poorest and most vulnerable households in the city. The second issue comes back to the water issue, and this is not just an infrastructure failing issue, although it is an infrastructure issue. It directly impacts the poorest and most vulnerable in the city. The city loses 6 million Rand a day, 2.2 billion Rand a year in water that goes down the drain. Someone has to pay for that. And what happens with that is that the poorest households are paying for it. Water and electricity tariffs in the city of Johannesburg are among the most expensive in South Africa. The cost of 350 kilowatt hours of electricity every month in the City of Joburg on their prepaid tariff, which we have calculated, is the minimum amount that a household needs to live the minimum standard of living that we aspire to in the National Development Plan and to engage in small-scale activity, plus 13 kilolitres of water per month for a household in the City of Joburg costs 1,100 Rand a month. That is more than double the childcare grant, and it is a quarter of the minimum monthly maximum household wage. So what we are seeing is that one part of the state is trying to improve people's lives through things like childcare grants, SRD grants, pensions and other grants and free basic. And what is happening is that people are using that money to pay the City of Joburg for substandard services. Poor households are the most affected by outages in water and electricity because they don't have the resources to make an alternative plan. So I think we need to look at the infrastructure issues and the failures of the city to fund infrastructure maintenance, not just as infrastructure issues, but as issues that are directly exacerbating poverty and inequality in the city. that 2.2 billion rand that the city is paying to Rand Water for water that goes down the drain could be a good foundation for a different kind of public-private partnership to start fixing South Africa's infrastructure and making sure that the people who need services the most are actually getting them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. President and Dr. Sarah Nene. We'll now invite Mr. Kendall Mahamati from the University of the Witwatersrand.
His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa, the Honorable Premier Panyaza Lesufi, the Honorable Mayor Councillor Dada Morero, distinguished delegates, fellow stakeholders of the City of Johannesburg, Program Director Minister Kumbuzo Nchaveni. Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Kendall Makhamate. I'm responsible for strategic engagements, partnerships and strategic projects in the Office of the Vice Chancellor of the University of the Witwatersrand. The university is incredibly grateful for the invitation to take part in this forum. I also wish to take university, but is unable to attend due to pressing matters that requires personal attention. The relationship between Wits University and the City of Johannesburg is deeply rooted in history and shared destiny. Our origins trace back to a mining school transported from Kimberley to the burgeoning goldfields of Joburg, a move that cemented the university's role as a cornerstone of knowledge creation and innovation in the city. Over the years, Wits has evolved alongside Joburg, enduring and contributing to the socio-political shifts that have shaped this country of ours. Through the darkest periods of apartheid, Wits was at the forefront of transformation, employing the first African academic at a white university in 1935, Benedict Wallet Vilakazi, publishing his first anthology of isiZulu poetry through Wits University Press, and conferring on him the first doctorate in literature for an African scholar. Another example is Dr. Mary Malahlela, whose legacy as the first African woman in South Africa to qualify as a medical doctor in 1947 further highlights the university's commitment to progress. This tradition of excellence continues today. Wits University is one of the most transformed higher education institutions in South Africa, with a student body that reflects the diversity of our nation. I must state here that we feel that our academic excellence is a national asset. This excellence, we feel, also aligns with the National Development Plan 2030, which envisions South Africa as a higher education hub for the region. Beyond producing leaders, Wits plays a pivotal role in addressing societal challenges through cost-cutting edge research and innovation. Our academics are globally recognized in fields such as astronomy, virology, paleosciences, and politics. Embedded as we are in the fabric of this city, we are deeply invested in Joburg's future, as evidenced by our engagement in urban safety, digital connectivity, and healthcare. Our collaboration with JMPD ensures rapid security responses for our community, a partnership we appreciate and wish to strengthen further. The city's progress is critical to us because it's tied to ours, as we want to see the city move forward. However, the reality outside our campus boundaries presents serious concerns. A recent survey revealed that while the great majority of our staff feel safe on campus, safety is a concern outside of Wits. Issues such as broken traffic lights, uprooted pavements, missing manhole covers, litter in the streets, uncut grass, and general lawlessness undermine Joburg's status as a world-class African city. Water outages affect over 30,000 students at a time, and in May last year we had to cough up money to spend on diesel due to unscheduled power cuts, a problem that all of us have faced at some time or another. These are not just inconvenient though, they disrupt our core academic mission and compromise Joburg's ability to attract and retain talent. We recognize that the city faces complex governance and service delivery challenges. However, inconsistent and disjointed engagements, as well as the loss of institutional memory within city management, has made it difficult to find sustainable solutions. We urge the city to work with us in a structured, long-term manner to address these challenges collaboratively. That said, there are successful models of partnership that we have that can be built upon. The city facilitated our access to 36 public libraries, where in partnership with Tenet, we've enabled Wi-Fi access for students and academics. We have invested in Joburg's healthcare infrastructure, building the burns unit at Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital, and this with private funding from a donor. And also, we've also provided world-class dental facilities in Zola at the community clinic there. We're now working with Charlotte Maxeke Hospital to rebuild the dental hospital. That in itself a massive feat and an initiative that will expand access to critical oral healthcare services. We do appreciate the city's approval of traffic calming zones around our campus, a crucial step towards ensuring the safety of students, staff, and visitors. WITS also collaborates with civil society and industry partners, such as Josie Majosi, where the CEO, B.S. Swarupo, was also making a very impactful presentation a little earlier. And Josie Majosi is taking over where the city cannot deliver. And they've made significant strides in a short time to bring together business, civil society, and academia to revitalize and reclaim this dynamic and beautiful city of ours. We remain keen to engage in broader initiatives, including Joburg's role in the G20. Joburg is the economic heart of South Africa, and WITS is a national treasure at its center. If Joburg is to fulfill its potential as a city where people can live, work, and play in safety and prosperity, collaboration is not optional, it is imperative. The key lies in structured, sustained engagement between the university, the city, and the province.
and thus dealing with the issues of illegal connection of electricity. And two, we are looking at other options in terms of creating water supply to be based there right at the informal settlement, and we can control the supply of water in those informal settlements. We do accept indeed that there were recommendations made by the Khampempe Commission. In January, I was called to appear by the Khampempe Commission because there were reports that were outstanding from our side as the City of Johannesburg that we have not been able to comply. We went through a process, and last week already our city manager had to go and respond and give reports as required by the Khampempe Commission. In fact, we are responding to the Khampempe Commission contrary to other views that would have been presented. Strengthening of IGR has been presented. In fact, we have been lucky. Since we took over last year, we've had quite a consistent IGR with the MEC of corporate COCTA in the province, and we've also had an IGR consistently with the Minister of Water. We've had consistent IGR with the MEC of Finance to ensure that critical issues are resolved through IGR, which also led to us engaging with the Minister of Electricity as a result of the dispute between the city and Eskom around electricity bills, and that IGR process yielded some results, and we are now finding each other with Eskom. We continue to engage with the South African Police Service. After having signed a contract with the Minister of Police, we have conducted at least 2 joint raids in Johannesburg with the SAPS, focusing in the inner city areas of Hillbrow, Ward 123, so that we can respond to the levels of crime. And we continue to do our best, and we're lucky just 2 days before we're able to pounce on buildings where drugs were found. In fact, our JMPD did their work, and we continue to do so. However, we still need more support from our own communities to help us to strengthen our efforts in as far as crime is concerned. Yes, the service charter, as proposed by the Johannesburg Alliance, I believe is an important aspect. But however, we need to note that we have always had a service charter on how we deliver on our services, what are our turnaround times, and all those things, what are our KPIs and targets. All what we need to do is to declare the service charter with all our stakeholders so that they are aware of what our turnaround times are and what we have committed to. We normally publish those as we publish our IDP. I think it's just time to strengthen our relationship with some of the stakeholders who might not necessarily be closer to the work that we are doing in the city. Improve on accountability, and I think that's the commitment we have made, President, and we are not going to stop. We will explain other logical things in terms of some issues raised by labor, especially around how we use USDGs, how we use BFIs. So I think it's a matter of giving thorough explanation and outline it proper to labor so that there's a clear understanding of what actually happens. But there's a matter of concern that was raised by labor, that there's duplication of jobs, something that I think as the leadership we need to focus on it once we leave this meeting to understand exactly what does it mean that there's duplication of jobs. And of course, part of what we have been trying to do as we do our annual budgets is to reduce on contracted services so that we can reduce our spending on contracted services. I think I've responded to the key issues, Mr. President. We are dealing with hijacked buildings in the inner city. We are dealing with bad buildings. We started the project on the 19th of February. Now what we are looking at is partners that will come on board to say we are ready to invest in the buildings that we are clearing. Some of the property owners have come to us to say, we want to partner with you. We had buildings in the inner city that were hijacked. Now that we are putting this project together, we are ready to renovate our own buildings and business can come back into the inner city. We appreciate the work that the JCCI has also been doing with us to try and turn around investments into the city and bring more investments. We have to resolve the water problem. We have to resolve it so that we can stimulate economic growth and attract investments once more. Mr. President, I almost said Comrade President. Comrade President, as I conclude, we have concluded an important project to unlock the investment in Lanseria Smart City. In this week, myself, the CEO of Water, and investors in Lanseria have agreed to outline and unlock the wastewater treatment plant in Lanseria. And we believe it's only through unlocking that we'll be able to unlock investments in Lanseria. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Executive Mayor. Mr. President, I made one mistake. When he was welcoming us, the Executive Mayor indicated he's the #1 resident of the City of Johannesburg. And he forgot you're the #1 citizen of the Republic of South Africa. So he doesn't take precedence over you. And as we appreciate the interactions, I'd like to hand over to yourself, Your Excellency, Mr. President, to then give us directives as we launch this Presidential Johannesburg Working Group, and you send us to our stations to do the work that is necessary.
Thank you. Let's be seated, please. Thank you, Program Director, Minister Kumbuzo Nchaweni, and all of you who are here present. I'd like to say on this issue of being #1 resident or #1 citizen, I'm happy for the mayor to be #1 so long as that #1 status goes with reducing my rates and taxes for Johannesburg. Let me thank everyone who's here. We've been here since morning, and in fact since yesterday. I'd like to thank those who have joined us for this stakeholder meeting. And I'd like to thank you for your contributions and the ideas that you've put forward. But I also want to thank you for the spirit in which this meeting has been conducted, particularly by those organizations who, when invited, have taken the trouble and the time to come here. You have proven to me that you are indeed organizations that are deeply invested in the life of this city. And you are, in a way, as one of you said, a coalition of the willing. And you want to be part of the missing puzzle and this whole conundrum that Johannesburg is involved in. And you do not want to be put forward as a band-aid on the problem. You want to be part of the solution. And I want to thank the mayor and indeed my office for having amassed the whole gallery of organizations that are here, representing the various formations of civil society, ranging from young people to business to academia, and we would have had religious as well, and trade unions. That to me represents the full galaxy of organizations, and indeed government as well. Organizations and entities that are normally involved in the life of any country, and in this case, the City of Johannesburg. And all of you who spoke this afternoon demonstrated a great deal of passion, but you also represented or demonstrated concerns, and some a little bit of anger, which you expressed, and some came forward with very practical solutions and ideas, and some of you demonstrated how much work you've been doing, from either recalibrating the Mandela Bridge and also enhancing collaboration and discussion and debate and putting people together to discuss the challenges that this city is facing. So that for me is really heartwarming. And it's heartwarming because all of you have shown that collaboration is a really powerful instrument. And it is the reason why you are all here. And you are here because you want to be part of what we do to address what Johannesburg is going through. Today is a truly momentous day, a day in which we actually consolidate what has been done before. It's not the first time that we're bringing people together to talk about the challenges that Johannesburg is facing. It has been done, but today we're doing it with greater effectiveness because we brought all the levels of government, national, provincial, local, as well as all other stakeholders that matter in the life of Johannesburg. So today we've heard your concerns and the proposals that you've put forward to improve not only service delivery, but also how we can drive inclusive growth here in Johannesburg. Now, as a resident of Johannesburg myself, I do share the concerns that have been expressed about the deterioration of the city, the services, and the infrastructure. Over the last 2 days, members of the National Executive of the country have engaged the leadership of Gauteng, as well as the leadership of Johannesburg, the city, on the key challenges that are facing our city and our province, and finding ways of doing what needs to be done to address these challenges. I must say that we are committed to ensuring that through cooperation amongst the three spheres of government, we will urgently attend to the challenges. We may well have said so in the past, but the enormity of the challenges and the problem compels us to now say we are going to redouble our efforts. Because Johannesburg is a special place. And earlier I said Johannesburg is too big to fail, and we're not going to allow it to fail. We're going to work hard to restore Johannesburg to its old glory. We're going to work hard to ensure that its neighborhoods and townships are restored to what they should be, and development does take place. We want also the rich history of this town, this city, to be restored. It's been a city of struggle, it's been a city of great progress that has been seen, but it has now become stuck in a rut, and we now need to boost Johannesburg and take it out of the rut it is in. And we have a number of positives that we can rely on. Johannesburg's diversity has always been its greatest strength. From Lenasia to Alexandra, from Parkhurst to El Dorado Park, this city espouses unity in diversity. In the democratic period, Johannesburg has become one of the foremost cultural, political, and economic centers in our country. It is therefore vital for the country's future that Johannesburg should be restored to its former glory. And perhaps its new glory, because it needs to go beyond its former self, and it needs to be a modern Johannesburg that responds to the times that we live in. The Government of National Unity has prioritized reaching a higher percentage of growth than where we are, to create the jobs that South Africa needs. Our metropolitan areas are obviously going to be critical to drive this growth. Metros can only play this vital role if they grow economically, and in the end, they have citizens living in them who are thriving, who are economically progressing, and if they live also in safe areas where there is good transport, good infrastructure, and that enables them to have better lives. For South Africa to thrive, Johannesburg must lead in a number of areas. It must lead in good governance, in service delivery, and also in economic growth and job creation. I've heard today how the ongoing disruptions in water and in electricity provision are making the lives of residents very difficult. I've also heard how deteriorating road infrastructure, not only heard but also experienced it myself, how the potholes that are littered all over our streets and roads, how our bridges that are unsafe, how our dysfunctional street lights are making life difficult for the residents of this city. We are equally concerned about the closure of public facilities like the Johannesburg Library, where I used to study, but also where I used to go and borrow books as a young man. The Johannesburg Art Gallery and the Metro Center are also in decline, but I also had some good news. The mayor told me that the Johannesburg Library should be opening later this month or early next month. That's good news. Unfinished and delayed infrastructure projects, including Rea Vaya bus stations and the refurbishment of Lillian Ngoyi Street, must be prioritized. We also share the sentiment that there needs to be a collaborative focus on rejuvenating the inner city of Johannesburg and the city's townships. I related earlier, and I will not repeat it, how driving through the streets of Johannesburg, I became more and more disheartened by the state of the city. Through the Department of Cooperative Governance, National Treasury, and Provincial Government, we are supporting the City of Johannesburg to stabilize its governance and financial affairs. Minister Tlhabisa and his department and Minister Godongwane are having a razor focus, are paying razor focus attention on assisting the city to address many challenges that it faces. Now, we need to ensure that we unlock service delivery backlogs and begin to address the backlog in infrastructure provision. I must say that I was very disturbed when I heard Dr. Ledger talking about how the money that we allocate for supporting indigent families, about 560 rand per month, to assist them with water and electricity, is only allocated to 100,000 households when we have budgeted for 1,100,000. I regard this as a real disgrace and terrible, and it's something I want to see corrected immediately. That must happen. We allocate 70 billion rand a year for supporting indigent families throughout the country. And to have Johannesburg utilizing the money that is allocated to 1 million households and utilize it for general operation costs is something that's unacceptable. That money that is allocated to support indigent families is precisely the money that we want to see reducing the cost of living of the poor. That money belongs to the poor of this city and must go to that purpose. I will be paying closer attention to what happens to the money that is allocated to the indigent people in our country. A year ago, I announced the establishment of a presidential working group in eThekwini, which brought together government, a number of key stakeholders, as in business, organized labor, and civil society. Like Johannesburg, eThekwini was facing similar issues related to water disruptions, crime and governance challenges, and financial mismanagement. The model that we piloted in eThekwini has shown good progress, resulting in a steady improvement in business and societal confidence in eThekwini. A number of people experienced how eThekwini, Durban particularly, has improved during the holidays when they thronged to Durban, which used to be the real mecca of tourism in our country, and where this time round they were able to see visions of how Durban is being rebuilt and being reconstructed. Our learnings in eThekwini make us confident that this is the correct model to address Johannesburg's many challenges. What we did in eThekwini is putting the district development model into practice. It is a model that is proving itself to be quite effective in that through that model we are able to break down the silos that exist in government, but more importantly to be able to bring a number of other key role players from outside government to participate in the work that needs to be done to reform and to rebuild our state in line with the priority that we set out for ourselves to ensure that we build a capable and developmental state. Dr. Ledger correctly says that by not allocating the indigent amount that should go to poor families, we demonstrate that we are not a developmental state. And I couldn't agree with her more. We therefore must accede to higher levels of being a developmental state and ensure that resources that are allocated to assist the poor do go to giving support to poor people in our country, and by so doing addressing the second priority that we set out for ourselves as a government of national unity, to reduce poverty and also to reduce the cost of living. Over the last month, the presidency has engaged the City of Johannesburg, the province of Gauteng, and some social partners on establishing a presidential Johannesburg working group. There has been broad support from everyone engaged in an intergovernmental mechanism that will strengthen cooperation and leverage the expertise and resources of all stakeholders in the City of Johannesburg. What a number of you as stakeholders demonstrated today is that you are indeed a reservoir of great knowledge, both historic knowledge, current contextual knowledge, as well as future knowledge, from academia to business to young people, articulating precisely what they are doing and would like to do for this city. So we want to harness all that. We see that as great strengths that we need to harness to address the challenges that Johannesburg faces. And what is pleasing is the manner in which you express your willingness to work with us. And some of you brought your own documents, which you have handed over, containing the proposals that you want to put forward. So today, in the discussions that we have had and the inputs that a number of you have made, we have further cemented this approach of collaboration, of working together. The Presidential Johannesburg Working Group will focus on many of the issues that have been raised here today. The first focus area will be on governance and financial sustainability. We will work to strengthen the internal governance and financial management of the city by restoring institutional capacity. Yes, we need to ensure, as one of you said, that we appoint people who are capable, people who know what they are doing, and we should not be appointing people because of their political affiliation. We should be appointing people because of what they can do and what they know. The second focus will be on water and sanitation, and the third focus will be on electricity as well. We will work to stabilize critical infrastructure by improving, yes, maintenance, increasing funding, and focusing on the whole value chain. Earlier, we also spoke about how we can crowd in the private sector and how we can ensure that the private sector does indeed play a critical role in helping to finance a number of projects that this city needs to embark upon. The fourth area of focus will be on public spaces and beautifying our city. We need to make this city beautiful so that it does not only become a concrete jungle. Specific interventions will include fixing road infrastructure, restoring street lighting, as well as traffic lights, and enhancing waste collection throughout the city. And of course, it should also include ensuring that the workers, the 46,000 workers or so as we had, are well treated, well compensated, so that they are properly incentivized to do the work that must be done to ensure that this city does turn around. On safety, the Presidential Johannesburg Working Group will focus on improving law enforcement and urban security. As we heard earlier, a number of steps have already been taken. The mayor reported, and indeed the South African Police Service is busy throughout the days working either through Operation Chanela and other more focused task forces to ensure that they bring down the high level of criminality in this city. Particular focus will be on combating infrastructure crime, as well as vandalism, and enforcing bylaws. And it is through enforcing bylaws, Mayor, that I'd like the city to focus more attention on. What we have tended to see throughout the country is a lack of enforcing bylaws, where it is almost like, colloquially I could say, like the Wild West, where anybody does whatever they like. If they want to put up any structure in the middle of the road, they go ahead and do so. Piece of land, they go ahead and invade it and do whatever they like. Would like the bylaws to be enforced. Minister Hlabisa is in the process of concluding his report on an issue that beset us just last year, when a number of children died through the sale of unsafe foodstuffs in the various shopping outlets, spaza shops and otherwise. And we found that a number of them do not observe either health laws or regulations or bylaws. That will all be revealed in the report that he will give, and we will enhance and must enhance the observation of bylaws. And we would like to see more increased visibility of police, particularly in crime spots. I have paid my tribute and given words of praise to the JMPD, who I saw in their uniform late at night as I was with my protectors going through Johannesburg, and I saw how they are making Johannesburg, the inner city, safe. Would like to see more and more of that, so that Johannesburg should be seen and regarded as a safe city. And Mayor and Premier would like to see more and more of those boots in the street and those boots and warm bodies visible, so that the people of Johannesburg should have a sense of safety in the suburbs, in the inner city, and in the townships. The working group will work with social partners to accelerate service delivery, or rather the delivery of housing and the upgrading of informal settlements. I know that as the economic hub of the country, you face enormous challenges as people migrate more and more to the city. But at the same time, it is a challenge that we must meet head on and ensure that we address the challenge of people who are coming to Johannesburg living in informal settlements. And we therefore need to up our game when it comes to human settlements or housing. In the inner city, we will launch a rejuvenation project focusing on improved safety, infrastructure upgrades, and yes, housing redevelopment. We spoke earlier about abandoned buildings that need to be recalibrated and that need to be fashioned in a way that they can accommodate our people and give them dignity. Through this, we aim to encourage investment and create a vibrant and clean urban core that delivers a better life to everyone. We have set out a time frame to achieve all this, and the Presidential Johannesburg Working Group will look closely at the time frame that we should have. It should not be an elongated time frame. We want Johannesburg to go back to its glory days as soon as possible. And this working group will report on a regular basis to ministers and to myself. I will be paying a keen interest on what is happening here in Johannesburg, as I will and am doing with what's happening in eThekwini. And we will also be going to other metros. We cannot act as if it is business as usual. We must recognize the crisis before us and meet it and address it with the resources, within the time frames that we are setting, with a high measure of accountability, and make sure that indeed people who are allocated work do get the work done. But in the end, government cannot do it alone. And that is why we are having this integrated discussion which brings together various stakeholders. The involvement of broader stakeholders in the working group will not only hold us collectively accountable to the targets that we set, but will accelerate our efforts. We have seen it in eThekwini, and we have seen how it boosts confidence and energizes people, including in labor, including in the private sector, as people see that progress is being engendered in what we are seeking to do to improve our people's lives and to also grow our economy. In the coming weeks, my team will be engaging business, labor and civil society, and academia regarding their respective roles in the Presidential Johannesburg Working Group. So all of you as entities who stood up here to speak, you will be part of this. And the roles that you will play will be clearly delineated. I know that this announcement that was made might have surprised you, but you have said we need to act with urgency, and that's precisely what we have done. In eThekwini, as soon as we made the announcement, people got down to work, and as the work has been progressing, they have been encouraged to see the great progress that is being made. I do look forward to receiving an update of all stakeholders that have committed to support this effort. So this Presidential Working Group on Johannesburg will have 2 coordinators or 2 leaders, one from government, and I will be appointing another person from the private sector or from amongst our other stakeholders, so that it is properly integrated, so that it is more broadly accepted. And I expect that all stakeholders will find a way of working together. And it will have a number of work streams, focusing on a number of areas. We have found that this works very well because we have various groups that will, or work streams that will focus on specific areas, and it involves a lot of work, I must warn you. It involves a lot of meetings. It involves a lot of fact-finding and fact confirmation, but it is work that is worth it. I'm confident that this partnership will improve the quality of life of the people of Johannesburg and will also make Johannesburg an attractive place for investment. Johannesburg as a city is a resilient city and has been so for the longest time. But it is also a place of innovation and a place of great hope. So I invite all of us to move forward with determination and unity, and also be committed to the shared future that we all have, and ensuring that we leave no one behind, even the one who claims to be the first resident of this city, which I welcome because I'll get a discount on my rates. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you move to take your seat, I'd like to invite the Speaker of the City of Johannesburg, Councillor Nokuhle to come and pass the vote of thanks. Councillor.
Thank you, Program Director. Your Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa, you are the only person who can make the Speaker feel like a visitor in a council chambers, but we'll forgive you because you are the President of our Republic. Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers, Honorable Premier of Gauteng, Mr. Panyaza Lesufi, members of the Executive Council, Executive Mayor of the City of Johannesburg, Councillor Cyril Ramaphosa, members of the Mayoral Committee, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to deliver this vote of thanks on behalf of the City of Johannesburg for this insightful and impactful two-day engagement. On behalf of the City of Johannesburg, we extend our deepest gratitude for choosing our city to host such an important gathering, one that seeks to find sustainable solution to some of the most pressing challenges that are facing our municipality. And chief among them being how to implement impactful service delivery within the City of Johannesburg, because we all want the city to go back to being the world-class African city. Mr. President, together with your cabinet, the Premier's Executive Council, the City of Johannesburg leadership, we appreciate your commitment to engaging with municipalities and communities at a grassroots level. Your presence here affirms the importance of local government in the broader development agenda of our municipality, and as evidenced by the Presidential Johannesburg Working Group. Mr. President, as the legislative arm of the City of Johannesburg, we will continue to play our critical oversight role, ensuring that the decisions made during the engagement for the past 2 days translate into a meaningful action that benefits our residents, the people of the City of Johannesburg. Once again, thank you for your time, thank you for your insights and your commitment to improving the lives of our residents. May we continue to work together in unity and purpose to build a better Johannesburg and a stronger South Africa. I thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and Mr. President.